Picture this. A billionaire walks into a bank to buy a $10 million mansion. You'd think they'd write a check and walk out debt-free, right? But here's what actually happens. They take out the biggest mortgage possible and walk away smiling. Sound crazy? Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand why staying in debt is actually the smartest move the ultra-wealthy make. Look, I need you to forget everything you've been taught about mortgages for a second. We've all heard the same advice, haven't we? Pay off your house as fast as possible. Your parents said it, your financial advisor probably said it, Dave Ramsey definitely said it. The American dream is owning your home free and clear, no bank breathing down your neck. But here's the thing, that advice, it's designed for average people with average goals, average income, average debt, average life. The ultra-wealthy, the people worth 50 million, 100 million, even billions, they play an entirely different game. To them, paying off a mortgage isn't freedom, it's a financial mistake. Actually, it's worse than a mistake. It's leaving millions of dollars on the table. I know what you're thinking. Why would someone with 50 million in the bank want to owe 10 million to a bank? It seems backward, counterintuitive, maybe even reckless. Therefore, let me walk you through exactly how the rich turn debt into a money-making machine, and why keeping a mortgage isn't just acceptable to them, it's strategic, it's calculated, it's intentional. But before we dive in, if you're enjoying this so far, make sure you're subscribed. We break down wealth-building strategies like this every single week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button now. Let's start with the most powerful concept in the rich person's playbook, arbitrage. Arbitrage sounds fancy, doesn't it? Like something only Wall Street traders understand. But it's actually simple math, beautiful, elegant math. You borrow money at one rate and invest it somewhere that pays a higher rate. The difference? That's pure profit. That's free money. That's the game. Imagine you're buying that $10 million estate I mentioned earlier. You've got two choices sitting in front of you. Option A, pay $10 million cash. Boom, done. House is yours, title in your name, no debt, no monthly payments. Feels good, right? Feels like winning. But here's the problem. That $10 million is now locked inside your walls, trapped. It's not working for you anymore. It's not earning anything. It's just sitting there in stone and wood and fancy Marty Italian marble. Beautiful, sure, but financially, dead weight. Option B, take a mortgage at 4.5% interest and keep that $10 million invested in the stock market or your business or private equity deals. Now, if you invest that money in the stock market, which historically returns about 8 to 10% annually over the long term, you're making a spread of 3.5% to 5.5% every single year on money that isn't even yours. You're profiting from the bank's capital. Let me break this down even further because this is where it gets wild. This is where the math becomes almost magical. On a $10 million mortgage at 4.5% interest, you're paying roughly $450,000 a year in interest. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Sounds painful. Sounds like something you'd want to eliminate as fast as possible. But wait. If that $10 million you kept invested is earning 8% annually, you're making $800,000 a year. Do the math with me. $800,000 minus $450,000, therefore you net $350,000 annually just by staying in debt, just by choosing not to pay off your house. Over 30 years, that's over $10 million in profit made entirely on the bank's money. You borrowed their capital and turned it into a fortune. That's not reckless, that's genius. The wealthy don't see mortgages as burdens. They don't see them as chains around their neck. They see them as leverage, as tools, as weapons in the war for wealth. Every dollar they borrow is a soldier they send out into the world to capture more dollars. And they want every single soldier on the battlefield, not locked up inside a house doing nothing. Money at rest is money wasted. Money in motion, that's how empires are built. Okay, so arbitrage is part of it, and that's the mathematical foundation. But there's another reason the rich hate tying up cash in real estate, and it's equally important: liquidity. Let me ask you something. Actually, let me paint you a scenario. You put $10 million into a house. You pay cash. It's yours, free and clear. Beautiful place. Ocean view, pool, wine cellar, the works. Then next week, the stock market crashes 40%. 40%. Companies you've been watching for years are suddenly on sale, a once-in-a-decade buying opportunity. What are you going to do? You can't exactly chip off a piece of your kitchen counter and sell it, can you? You can't withdraw your equity like it's a savings account. You can't swipe your house at the ATM. Real estate is what we call an illiquid asset. It's stuck, frozen, immobile. So getting that money back out requires one of two painful options. You sell the house, which could take months and involves real estate agents, inspections, negotiations, paperwork, lawyers, and moving trucks. Or you refinance, which means fees, more paperwork, bank approval, credit checks, appraisals, and waiting around hoping interest rates haven't spiked since you bought the place. The ultra-wealthy don't operate like that. They can't operate like that. They prize speed above almost everything else. Flexibility, the ability to move fast when opportunity knocks, and opportunity doesn't wait around. Maybe a distressed company comes up for sale. Maybe a private equity deal drops into their lap. Maybe Bitcoin crashes and they want to buy low. Maybe their friend calls and says, I need capital for this project and I'm offering you 20% equity if you wire me $5 million by Friday. Whatever it is, they need cash ready to deploy in hours, not months, not after a lengthy refinance process, right now. Financial advisors actually have a term for equity trapped in a home. They call it dead money. Think about that phrase, dead. It doesn't pay dividends, it doesn't earn interest, it doesn't generate cash flow, it doesn't compound. It just sits there, silent and still, doing absolutely nothing for you except existing. So by keeping a mortgage, the wealthy keep their capital alive and ready to pounce on the next big win. They keep their ammunition dry. They stay liquid, flexible, dangerous. Now, let's talk about something the rich absolutely love, something they obsess over. Tax optimization. You know what the government does? It actually rewards you for taking on mortgage debt. I'm serious. This isn't some loophole. This isn't some gray area. This is explicit government policy. In the United States, the mortgage interest deduction lets you deduct interest payments on up to $750,000 of mortgage debt from your taxable income. The government is literally incentivizing you to stay in debt. But here's where the magic happens. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you're ultra wealthy, you're probably in the top tax bracket, let's say 37% federal. So when you pay 5% interest on your mortgage, the government essentially gives you back 37% of that through tax savings. Your accountant files your return, and that interest you paid, it reduces your taxable income. Here's the math, and pay attention because this is crucial. Your nominal interest rate is 5%, but after the tax deduction, your effective rate, the rate you're actually paying after accounting for tax savings, drops to about 3.15%. 3%! That's insanely cheap money. That's cheaper than almost any other form of borrowing available. Cheaper than car loans, cheaper than business loans, cheaper than credit cards, way cheaper. Therefore, why on earth would you pay that off? Why would you eliminate a 3% loan when the government is subsidizing it? The government is literally paying you to borrow money and invest it elsewhere. It becomes one of the most affordable tools in your financial toolkit. To the rich, this is a no-brainer. This is financial gravity. Taking advantage of legal tax incentives isn't shady, it's smart. It's what the tax code was designed for. And paying off a 3% loan when you could be earning 8 to 10% elsewhere? That's leaving money on the table. That's failing at basic finance. Here's something most people get wrong about debt. They think it stays the same forever. They think $1 million debt today is $1 million debt in 30 years. But it doesn't work that way. See, inflation is the enemy of the saber. If you save $100,000 and stuff it under your mattress, inflation eats away at it every single year. But it's the best friend of the borrower. Let me paint a picture. You take out a $1 million mortgage today. That $1 million is fixed. It's a nominal debt. The number never changes. But inflation runs at about 3% per year on average, which means the value of a dollar shrinks over time. Every year, that dollar buys less bread, less gas, less housing, less everything. In 20 years, that same $1 million you owe, it'll buy way less than it does today. Way less. You're essentially paying the bank back with cheaper, weaker dollars. Dollars that have been devalued by 2 decades of inflation. Meanwhile, the value of your house typically rises with inflation. Real estate is an inflation hedge, so your asset gets more valuable while your debt stays frozen in time. Therefore, there's a massive wealth transfer happening from the bank to you. The bank lent you strong dollars and you're paying them back with weak dollars. The rich understand this game intimately. They've been playing it for generations. By stretching a mortgage out for 30 years, they're betting that the future dollars they pay back will be worth far less than the dollars they kept and invested today. It's like borrowing gold and returning copper. It's like borrowing a Ferrari and returning a Honda. And the longer they wait, the better the deal gets. Time is their ally. Inflation is their weapon. Now we're getting into the really advanced stuff. Ready? The ultra-wealthy don't just think about making money, that's only half the game. They think about protecting it, especially from lawsuits, from creditors, from people who want to take what they've built. Here's the reality. If you're rich and someone sues you, they're going to look at your assets. They're going to examine your balance sheet. And a house you own free and clear, that's low-hanging fruit. It's a big, juicy target sitting right there. A $10 million asset with zero debt against it. But what if that house has a massive mortgage? What if you only own 20% of it and the bank owns the other 80%? Suddenly, it's not so attractive anymore. The bank has the primary claim on that property. The bank's lien comes first. If a creditor wants to get to your equity, they have to fight the bank first and navigate a complex foreclosure process just to access the remaining 20% you own. Most creditors won't bother. It's too much hassle for too little reward. Therefore, by keeping a mortgage, you create what's called a mortgage buffer. You make your assets look leaner, harder to seize, less appealing to predators circling your wealth. For high-profile individuals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, executives, anyone with a target on their back, this is a common strategy. They're stripping equity out of their homes on purpose, not because they need the money, not because they're broke, but because it makes them a less attractive lawsuit target. It's like wearing camouflage in a financial jungle. It's strategic invisibility. They look poorer on paper than they actually are, and that keeps them safer. All right, we've covered arbitrage, liquidity, taxes, inflation, and asset protection. But I saved the most mind-blowing strategy for last, the one that'll make you realize just how different the rich really are. The ultra-wealthy don't even get mortgages the way you and I would. They don't walk into a local bank branch and fill out paperwork with some loan officer named Kevin. They don't submit pay stubs and wait for approval. No, they use something called private banking or wealth management divisions that offer asset-backed lending. These are bespoke financial products designed specifically for the rich. Here's how it works, and pay close attention because this is beautiful. Instead of a traditional mortgage with all the usual requirements, a billionaire uses what's called a Lombard loan or a securities-backed line of credit. Fancy names, simple concept. They pledge their stock portfolio worth, say, $50 million as collateral. They don't sell the stocks, they just put them up as security. The bank looks at this portfolio and says, great, we'll lend you $10 million against this. And the interest rate? Insanely low, often just slightly above benchmark rates like SOFR. We're talking 2%, maybe 3%. They use that loan to buy the mansion. But here's the kicker. They never sell their stocks. Therefore, they avoid paying capital gains tax entirely. Zero. Nothing. If they sold $10 million worth of stocks to buy the house, they'd owe 20 to 23.8% in federal capital gains tax. That's $2 to $2.4 million gone. Poof. Instead, they borrow against the stocks and pay nothing. And get this, the dividends from those stocks often cover the interest payments on the loan. So they're living in a $10 million house, their investments keep growing, compounding, multiplying, and they're paying almost nothing out of pocket. Maybe nothing at all if the dividends fully cover the interest. This strategy even has a name in wealth management circles. They call it buy, borrow, die. You buy assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, whatever appreciates. You borrow against them to fund your lifestyle. You live like a king without ever selling anything or paying taxes. And when you die, your heirs inherit the assets at a stepped-up basis, which wipes out the capital gains tax forever. The tax bill disappears. vanishes. It's a perfectly legal loophole that allows the ultra-wealthy to live like royalty without ever paying taxes on the money they're spending. They've essentially figured out how to hack the tax code. Wild, right? Almost unbelievable. So let me ask you this. After everything we just covered, does the idea of the rich staying in debt seem crazy, or does it actually make perfect sense? See, the difference between how the average person thinks about money and how the wealthy think about money comes down to one thing: opportunity cost. When you pay off your house, you feel relief, freedom, peace of mind, security, and I'm not saying those feelings aren't real or valuable. They absolutely are. For most people, that peace of mind is worth something. But the wealthy are asking a different question. They're not asking, how do I feel safe? They're asking, what else could I do with this money that would make me richer? What's the highest and best use of this capital? Therefore, every dollar they tie up in a paid-off house is a dollar they can't use to invest, grow, and multiply. For them, a mortgage isn't a burden to escape, it's a tool to exploit. It's a lever to pull. It's a way to turn borrowed money into personal wealth. Let's recap, because this is important. The ultra-wealthy keep mortgages because they can borrow at 4 to 5% and invest at 8 to 10%, pocketing the difference. They keep their money liquid so they can jump on opportunities instantly when the market crashes or deals appear. They take advantage of tax deductions that make their debt cost almost nothing after Uncle Sam kicks in his share. They let inflation shrink the real value of what they owe while their assets grow with inflation. They protect themselves from lawsuits by keeping equity low and making their balance sheets look less attractive and using sophisticated lending products like Lombard loans to live lavishly without ever paying capital gains taxes. It's not about being cheap. It's not about being reckless. It's not about trying to game the system illegally. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding how money actually works at the highest levels. So, the next time you hear someone say the rich are drowning in debt, just smile, because now you know the truth. They're not drowning, they're swimming. They're swimming in opportunity, using the bank's money to get even richer, playing a game most people don't even know exists.